Hello everybody, today I want to talk to you about a really special sub-format of old school Magic. It is called Swedish 69, and in this sub-format you have to have 9 cards from each of the original expansions, that is of course Arabian Nights, Legends, Antiquities and The Dark, in your main deck. And of course, this is a very serious restriction. If you do the math, you will understand that it means you can have only 24 cards of the core sets in your main deck, and most likely these cards are going to be your mana base. And in the sideboard we also had a similar restriction, so you had to have 3 cards from each expansion. So it was very challenging to build for this format. I decided to go with this mono red build, but I saw some very interesting decks, and it's just a pleasure to play such formats with really serious restrictions. So let's go through the mana base first. So as I have said, the core set cards become incredibly valuable. For example, the things that we take for granted, such as Lightning Bolt, you really would think twice before including it into your deck, because again, you only have 24 cards from the core set. So I decided to go with the Power 6, the Moxen and Black Lotus. And then I had a ton of mountains. So pretty much everything else was mountains. The cards that I used from those core sets. Then we had a Strip Mine. Strip Mine is from Antiquities, let's remember that. So that's a nice bonus. And so is Mishra's Factory. And as you can see, there are a lot of Arabian Nights cards. There are some more Arabian Nights cards I would like to include, but simply didn't have the space for that. From Legends, in case of lands, we had Hammerhall, which is nice, not a really huge drawback. We have Diamond Valley. The first time I have played this card, it's really amazing, not only in case of sacrificing your Rook Hag, but in general. Library of Alexandria is always a pleasure to use, even though in this deck it was not always relevant, but again, it taps for 1 colorless, so that's great. Playing such restricted formats is a lot of joy, because you get to play some of the cards that have been collecting dust in your binder, and you always say to yourself that you are going to play them one day, but this day doesn't really come unless you are playing something for fun or have some serious restrictions such as this one. So here we have got Idwin Ifrit, and he's a 3/6, and you know about his brother, so to say, more cousin, I don't know, which is Mijaje Jin, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, which is 6/3 and has a drawback when he attacks, right? So you have to flip a coin and see if actually this attack is going to pass through. But with this guy, you only should flip a coin if you are blocking, not attacking. So that's quite interesting. I did use this ability only once, actually, blocking, and it was successful. I think this was my very first coin flip. Maybe not, because I did use Bottle of Suleiman, but still it's quite rare. And it's quite a solid card, because for 3 mana you get a 3/6 attacker, which is not bad by old school standards. Next we have got Sisters of the Flame. So apparently they're Sisters of Llanowar Elves. They're twice as big. They give you red mana. They cost almost 3 times as much, right? And the art is absolutely gorgeous. So this is of course Jasper Murphys. And I don't know about you, but this really reminds me of this amazing art of Elves of the Deep Shadow, with this almost photorealistic picture. And this card is great, and it's a 2/2 attacker or blocker in the worst case scenario, and getting 1 red mana, because here it really does matter, because as you see I have got a lot of colored mana in mana costs. So I don't regret using her. So of course the next best thing after Lightning Bolt is Chain Lightning. So obviously I included playset, and let's not forget that they really need to crack our Rook Eggs, and then if you have 2 extra mana you can redirect this into your true target, so to say. So Chain Lightning is a great thing here, of course. And let's not forget that we have a lot of artifact mana, a lot of Moxen, so this helps with acceleration into Suchi. And also, since we played according to Swedish rules, there was no mana burn, so no real pain of including Suchi. And also Suchi here is quite viable, because if you look at it, we don't really have a lot of artifact and enchantment removal in the expansions. We do have some, but we don't have disenchant, which is a major and universal card. So Suchi is really important. Also, which is quite relevant, if we look at another artifact creature that there is, and that is Trike, of course. He's amazing, he's very powerful, he can ping some small creatures. Don't have any recursion here, but what's important about him is that he is not a red creature, right? So one game I managed to win just thanks to Trike and Suchi not being red, because there was Circle of Protection red against me. Next we have got Pyrotechnics. So this is the case of the Legends card, and Pyrotechnics is a card I really like. I always have loved it. I know that it's a bit overcosted, but it's very nice, and I just want to emphasize how incredibly interesting and diverse were the decks that people played in this tournament. You really didn't see any kind of an archetype. So I thought that my deck was going to be a bit cheesy, but really it was probably the most boring deck I have seen. I have played 3 games. I actually got to top 8, but just because of the luck, and there were 2 other people in my group, and basically, yes, there were a lot of decks with creature hate, I would say. Maybe not necessarily creature hate, but for example modes and some creatureless decks that are good at stopping some basic aggro mid-rangey decks like mine. So next we have got from Legends Bloodlust. It's a really lovely card, and in the worst case scenario you can, for example, Bloodlust your own Rook Egg and kill it with Trike or Pyrotechnics and so on. But in general, Bloodlust is just a nice card, or you can attack with Rook Egg and Bloodlust, so you know, it's a lose-lose for your opponent whether they block it or not. So here are the Rook Eggs, of course. Again, not the first time I have played them, but always a nice card to use. Here is the token. Then we have got Ball Lightnings. So Ball Lightning, of course, in addition to the gorgeous art by Quinton Hoover that it has, let's not forget that it is a really powerful card. So even without any extra things like Bloodlust, or of course I would like to have Berserk, but not playing green here, and I kind of regret it. I could have used another color, but I was thinking that maybe it would be difficult to play more than one color in this subformat, but boy, was I wrong. But anyway, Ball Lightning, yep, quite happy with that, because as you will see, I have recorded some games. This is a basic red deck, right? So red is probably the most straightforward color of Magic. What does it do? You know that in order to win, you must bring your opponent down to 0 life, which is the most, of course, popular way of winning a game. And what does red do? It just damages your opponent. It's a very straightforward thing. So of course I did win some games, right? And sometimes it was with explosive starts, with Ball Lightnings, and smaller creatures like Suchis, Ifrits, and so on. Then we have got for the Dark. The Dark is, of course, probably the least powerful set of these 4 expansions. And I think that Fisher is a nice card. Again, it's 5, but instantly killing a land, how good is that? It's really amazing, right? And you can also bury, not just destroy, but bury a creature. So again, don't regret using it. Ali from Cairo, slightly different thing. The first time I have played him, of course, you know, it's a card that a lot of people feared and respected. It was one of the first cards that was very expensive. He's standing at the entrance to the Library of Alexandria, as I like to imagine. Maybe it's a smaller entrance, you know, kind of a back door, I don't know. But it's a really amazing card. And I like to think of him as a kind of a fog, really, because let's face it, your opponents are definitely ready to use some removal. Your opponents will always have some way to deal with some creatures, and even in the first game before you play sideboard, most likely you will see some kind of a way to deal with him. And as I have said, I think of him as a fog. And sometimes it can be 1 fog, 2 fogs, 3 fogs, and then your opponent finds the necessary removal. Again, everybody is playing Chaos Orb, as we know. Or it can even be zero fogs, you know, right after you bring him into play, your opponent kills him and attacks you. But it's a nice card, and again, a nice opportunity to play him. Let's look at the sideboard. So there are two gauntlets, which I never used actually, and I don't even know why I decided to use them here in the first place. It's a kind of a crusade slash mana flare, and this card definitely shines in other decks. For example, the amazing Kobolds deck that I played, even in the Dwarves tribal, so some smaller creatures, some mana acceleration, some Dragons deck actually as well, where you have got big fireballs. Here I don't have fireballs, sadly. Maybe I should have used them, at least in my sideboard, but no, I did not. And here we have got Arabian Nights, okay? So from Arabian Nights, as you can see, we've got Aladdin. And Aladdin is a really interesting card that I had never played until I played this deck. And I understood that I kind of misread it, but still he once helped me to win because I stole my opponent's Felver Stone, and there were some interesting shenanigans. But the point is that I thought that he has the kind of a preacher effect, you know? So you steal the creature, then you decide not to untap him, and then as long as he is tapped, I don't know why I didn't even bother to read it. So actually he can steal a card every turn. So this is the biggest revelation I had about this card. Next we have got this amazing Spinal Villain that I never used. He destroys a blue creature if you tap him. And what I did use, however, were the detonates. Okay, so I had those detonates, and I could detonate my opponent's artifacts, because again, maybe you would like to have, let's say, Shatter, but since Shatter, as far as I remember, is from Alpha, right? So you couldn't use it. And then a couple of more weird cards, I would say. That would be Mountain Yeti. Okay, played him once, he's not that bad, but never used him really, because the white decks that I faced were not really creature based, to be honest with you. For the dark I had obviously Mazes of Ith, and this very nice, almost like Maze of Ith, which is in some way worse because it only works on flying creatures, but in some way it's better because you reduce target flying creatures power to 0, which means that if you're attacking and for example you have a Serra Angel and your opponent has a Serra Angel, your opponent's Serra Angel deals no damage, and they can't even trade with yours. And finally I had Wheel of Fortune, which I don't think I really used much. So there it is. This is the deck that I played, and this very interesting format, sub-format of Old School Magic, is called Swedish 69. If you're interested in trying it, there is a sub community, I would say, for that, so you can do that. Thank you for watching, and I'm going to see you soon. Bye.